Hello. Uh, Today, now I would like to show you actually maybe the most famous attacking game of mine, which was well made quite a lot of noise in media between among players, among chess lovers, and even I was very honored to hear Alexander Grishuk, who have said that it's one of the most beautiful chess games he's ever seen in chess. Very high praise, of course, for me. Alexander is an amazing chess player, uh, and it's true. Actually, it's very flashy. I would say, yeah, it looks really. It's impressive in a way. I mean, without false modesty, but frankly, it was not by far not the most difficult game I've ever played because my play was very natural. I was lucky to get to catch in the opening with black my opponent, and then there were two, three decisions which were not so easy, but the rest was actually quite simple. It's a strange, so I have mixed feeling about this game. I mean, definitely positive feeling. I mean, it's really good game, but from one point of view, yeah, maybe the most beautiful game I've ever played. That's true, but it's maybe not the best game I've ever played at the same time. So whatever, yeah, whatever is it. But of course, it's a very special game for me. It was played in Berlin Candidates Tournament 2018. Actually, less than a year before I left chess. Um, I had a feeling that that was a very special tournament for me. I felt, frankly, that I kind of gave everything I had left inside me. It's a strange feeling, difficult to explain it, but like after this tournament, I felt empty. Yeah, like I cannot give really uh, anymore anything special to chess because this tournament I mean my final result was somewhere in the middle of the tournament. I mean I was fifth out of eight, but I played a lot of extremely interesting game. What I think is that unfortunately I couldn't qualify, but just actually by bad luck I just missed by millimeter the qualification place, and then I was given the wild card. At that time, there was wild card in candidates tournaments, and somehow I felt that I have to. Um, I have to justify it in some way. If not by my result, because I understood already I'm over 40, it will be difficult to win this tournament. I mean, I have some chances, but it will be difficult fighting with opponents who are much younger than me. And it's a very long event, so also physically not easy to hold 14 rounds, without some collapses from time to time at this age. So I felt that at least I have to show some really aggressive chess, some entertaining chess, at least I mean, kind of, I don't know, my reward back, to give back something to the organizers who decided to invite me because, okay, I maybe, if I take the third place, somehow making 12 short draws and winning couple of games, I mean, that would be really sad. Yeah, I mean, I felt like, okay, I should whether try to win it or at least at minimum try to play, in the full Monty, the most entertaining chess. And it's true, actually, I didn't manage the first task by far, even though I was leading actually after at the beginning of the tournament after this particular game. But at least I managed to play a number of extremely fighting, interesting games, crazy games. Probably some of you or many of you remember my game against Fabiano Caruana when I had white. Actually, it was around four. I was leading, and it was one of the craziest games and one of the most dramatic games, maybe in recent history, because I was worse. Then I was already winning after the time control. Then it was close to draw, and then finally I blundered in time trouble, lost this game. But anyway, so this game I want to show you actually two games from this tournament. So it will be this lesson and the next one. Two attacking games where I succeeded. I played quite a number of attacking games there, but I was less successful in other encounters. But here I succeeded, and that is a game, the third round against Levon Aranyan. I was black. We had 1.5 out of 2 we started, so we were both leaders, and it was a clash between us. Of course, a very important game at that moment of the tournament. So Levon, I actually also just before starting to show this game, I don't know why it's very strange, but because Levon is a fantastic player, and well, you can, especially at his best, he was no worse than any other player. I mean, maybe only besides Magnus Carlsen, but he was really, clearly, at least one of the best players in the world. But for some reason, I always had a very good score against him. I mean, it was very difficult. I was very difficult opponent for Levon. I don't know why. Maybe it's a matter of style. Yeah, it's hard to say because I had some problems with some other players of his generation from sometimes. But with Levon, even though I always thought that he is definitely no worse than anyone, but it happened that, I played very well against him usually. And in this particular event, actually, I managed to win both games because it's double round tournament. I managed to win both games against Levon, and actually both in a very good style. So just happens sometimes. I also actually have some very difficult opponents without any particular reason. I have quite a bad score against them, and I don't know why. I mean, hard to say. So, anyways, Levonov started with e4. Actually, it's an interesting story because, in fact, it was my only e4 game with black in this tournament. So I had 7 black games, and all other games my opponents would start with close openings, d4, c4, and Levon is the last person I expected e4 from, because at that time, now he's playing e4 from time to time. At that time, he was practically not playing in classical chess e4, especially in important tournaments. So I didn't prepare a second for e4 move, but of course, I've prepared quite seriously against e4, for the candidates tournament. And in fact, now I can tell it, I prepared Ruy Lopez, but another Ruy Lopez, not my Berlin. But then when I saw the pairing, so the pairing was that I had first 2 games with white, then I had black with Levon, and then I had another game with white, and then the rest day. I think it was like this. And so I decided, I will refresh my notes because Levon is a d4 player, so I will refresh my analysis, my notes, not before the tournament, what I usually do, because I did some work on e4 maybe a month or 2 before the event, so it was already not very fresh in my mind, frankly. So I decided, I will have a rest day after day 3 or 4, I think. But anyway, so I will not have face e4 before the rest day, and during the rest day I will refresh my notes, and then I will play this Ruy Lopez, which I prepared for the tournament. And then suddenly Levon played e4, so I went e5, knight f3, knight c6, still not sure if he's going to play maybe Scotch or Italian, but he played bishop b5. And somehow I was preparing a6 for the tournament, but quite sharp lines with a lot of force variations. And then I realized that I don't really remember my preparation so well. So I decided, okay, at least if it happened like this, then I play Berlin. At least I know it quite well. I remember it much better, but I was not preparing a second Berlin for the tournament. And so it was totally accidental. The opening was totally accidental. I mean, I just over the board, I decided, I better play Berlin, and then already for the next games, if players they play e4, then I would repeat my main repertoire, which was prepared for this tournament. So I went knight f6, and actually, because everybody, I guess, thinks that this was my preparation, because I used to play Berlin variation knight f6 at that time most of my games. So that was very logical that I played knight f6. Actually, not. It was quite a coincidence, but a fortunate coincidence for me, because the opening went extremely well. It cannot be better when you're playing a top player, very well prepared. On top of his very high level, Levon, he's also very well prepared. So I mean, I got better very quickly with black. Something which would probably never happen if I would have prepared Berlin for this game. Sometimes life makes strange turns. Yeah, so knight f6, d3 was played. I played bishop c5. Okay, I just played my usual repertoire, which at least is solid, and I played many games. I have experience at least there, and not so many forced lines. So I decided, well, at least even if I forget something, it will not be so dramatic. Bishop takes c6, one of the main moves here. D takes c6. Well, the point is that taking on e5 is not good here because the pawn is not hanging because of queen d4. So now Aronian played short castle. One of the moves in this position more popular is knight bd2. That is more popular. I played many games here. Well, of course, white cannot really pretend to be seriously better here, but since there are a lot of, nowadays problems actually to get any advantage, but not only advantage, but even any really play, in Berlin. So at least here, white secures a game. Yeah, a game with a slightly better pawn structure. Frankly, I never believe that this kind of treatment, opening treatment, can be any dangerous for black. I mean, objectively, because you just play bishop b5, then you take on c6 yourself, even without a6 played, and then you give up bishop. Well, of course, yes, a little bit pawn structure is a bit compromised, but still bishop is a bishop. And then you play d3 and you pretend to be slightly better. I cannot believe, just by pure chess logic, that this can give something. But of course, it's much more, has much more venom than it looks the first sight. So, anyways, Levon played castle. I was preparing some couple of years before, this variation. My preparation was queen e7, and now, actually, I thought castle is not a dangerous move in this position, because h3, that was supposed to be. I think that's what I saw, that it was the only way for white to fight for something. Yeah, h3, because otherwise, let's say if white is playing knight bd2, then black is in time quite important in this position. I believe that before playing knight d7, that black first manages to develop his bishop. So like bishop g4, h3, bishop h5, because quite often if the pawn on e5 is not protected, let's say the queen is on d8 and black have castled, for instance, then white would have g4, bishop g6, knight takes e5, pawn is hanging. Here the pawn is not hanging, and after knight c4, knight d7, I think it's like, to my understanding, it's an optimal setup for black. I mean, to get the knight on d7, but very often in this variation, black has still a bishop on c8, which has to be developed. Here, the bishop is already on h5. I think black is doing very fine here. I don't think there is any problem for black. So all in all, this variation castle probably is not too dangerous, but because of this novelty which I prepared for this game, I mean, not for this game, but which appeared in this game, because Levon played h3. Yeah, clear idea to stop bishop g4. And let's say if I castle, I suppose then idea already to start maneuvering the knight on c4. And this bishop doesn't have a good square really to develop. I mean, there is no g4 square. Still, of course, nothing dramatic for black, but it's perfectly playable for white. And I remember I analyzed few years ago here. I thought, well, h3, white have castled, black not yet. So it maybe, what about trying to push g5, g4, trying to play for attack? And I remember I analyzed h6 quite a lot, which actually was also very interesting. Just trying to go g5, g4. But then maybe a couple of years before this tournament, somehow I came in my homework when I was working at home. I again started to recheck a bit this position. And then I saw engine was given like fourth line, or I don't know, at that time, third, fourth, or maybe fifth line, rook g8 move. I just found it funny, rook g8, but then I started to look at it and I realized actually it's a very strong move, rook g8. I mean, it's actually saving the tempi in the attack, because rook you need really rook on g8, and white can never practically take on g5. Then I've analyzed it very briefly, maybe 20 minutes with engine at that time, and then I thought, yeah, this variation is not good for white, because rook g8, black has very prosperous position. But I didn't have any deep analysis. Okay, then already, and I forgot about this line for like a couple of years. And then already chess players told me that actually rook g8 at that time, with that time engine, when the game was played, it was already the first line. Actually, that makes me wonder why Levon preparation was a bit inadequate for such a tournament, because yeah, it was already the first line. I didn't know that. I mean, I actually still thought that it was a very, very tricky novelty, because usually now, I mean, chess players, they more look in the direction of first, maybe second line, but really not the fourth line. But actually, it should not have been a surprise for Levon, but it seems that it was. Actually, so I played rook g8. Yeah, I think it's actually just a refutation of the h3 move. In fact, here, I don't know if white can even equalize, but even if he can objectively manage to equalize, I mean, the black's play is much easier, much more pleasant. So because this king on g1 is really getting, it's getting very insecure for the rest of the game. I mean, black has a lot of attacking ideas, and definitely I'm not sure if it was repeated ever again on the more or less serious grandmaster level. After this game, I think h3 just was completely out of use after this rook g8 move, after this game. So rook g8, actually, I remember, well, if it was still Levon, if Levon would have known about this move, I think he would have played very quickly after rook g8, but he took some time, maybe 10 minutes or something. Actually, I was expecting him to start, to get into some 50 minutes reflection, because yeah, it's really g5, g4 is coming. It's a very important moment, or to play immediately, which would mean that he had analyzed it as well. But I think Levon took maybe 10 minutes for his move, so it was somewhere in the middle. I was still not totally sure during the game if it was his preparation still, or, I mean, then it would look strange, and why he spent 10 minutes. And anyway, it doesn't look like the line you prepare with white. You are going on your own, free will. At the same time, why didn't he think for a longer period of time? So I remember I was a bit confused with this during the game, but actually king h1 is the best move. Maybe just that Levon very quickly understood that there is not much he can do, because, for instance, if white tries to play without it, then g5 comes against practically any other move. For instance, if knight c3, just white developing g5, and already white is in deep trouble. G4 is a threat, and bishop takes g5, simply bishop takes h3, gh, h6. For example, just taking back the bishop, and of course, white long castle, then white's king is very weak. White's position is critical already. Then, okay, c3 made some sense. Here, maybe just to try to meet black's play with a central push. I mean, that's also one of the main rules in chess, that the flank play, the play on the flank of your opponent, let's say, should be met by the central breakthrough in the center. Yeah. Okay, very general, of course, this rule with a lot of exclusions, but still. So c3, d4 is very logical plan already now, since black king is in the center. But doesn't seem to work that well, because g5 still, let's say d4, and simply takes, c takes d4, and bishop b6. And again, g4 is very big threat. If white takes on g5, then I suppose the same story. Bishop takes h3 comes, and after e5, for instance, knight d5, still g4 is on the agenda, and black has black just needs, on top of the fact that he is threatening g4, even if he just plays bishop e6 long castle, he will have a good big positional advantage. So this is not an option. That's why I agree. I mean that king h1 with Levon, that king h1 is the best move in this position. And frankly, all what I remembered here, that black had two good options, at least two, and I decided that both are perfectly fine while preparing this variation. So one is h6 and another is knight h5. And that's all I remembered, even though when I came back after this game and checked my notes, there was very little there in these notes. I mean, just showing that, okay, just more or less 2-3 more moves and telling that black is very, very well. I mean, doing very well. Maybe better, maybe not better, but definitely having a very, very powerful initiative. So during the game, I decided to play knight h5. Also decided to do this quickly because in a way there is a certain psychological fight sometimes during games on the top level that I wanted to show that I'm very well prepared, actually, because anyway, h6, knight h5, I just remembered that both moves lead to good position for black, at least equal, and which one is better? Well, why would I spend time thinking about small nuances? Because I'm not sure I will, I mean, it makes such a big difference here. So it's better to move quickly, just to pretend that I'm, maybe I have a very, very powerful and deep preparation in this position, which is always useful sometimes, that your opponent starts to be a bit shaky, that he is hesitating more because he's afraid that you still have this position analyzed at home with a computer. So I decided to make a choice for knight h5, but h6 is also a good move. I think actually it's probably the best move, knight h5. I mean, I like it slightly more than h6, but also h6 is very dangerous move for white, because now, for example, this variation knight bd2 g5, because rook on g8 is anyway necessary. Yeah, it's very useful in this position. So knight c4, g4, knight takes e5, and now bishop e6, for instance, just preparing long castle. Even h5, for some strange reason, engines like, I guess, the idea that if white playing g3, then black wants to continue in the style, to play h4. No, here again, black is not mating white by force, not at all. But of course, he has a very good game, and I think engines given a small advantage to black already here, but not big. Yeah, I mean, it's still, the game is still definitely quite complicated. But I decided to go knight h5 quickly. And here already, I think my opponent started to think what to do about this g5, g4. Very brutal, kind of quite rare actually in chess, that on move 7 and 8, you start a direct attack against your opponent's king. Yeah, I mean, if we are talking about serious professional chess level, it's actually a very rare case that you just start to mate your opponent. And especially that this attack is really dangerous. It's not a bluff, it's a really dangerous attack. For instance, I can show you some lines. Actually, it's difficult to give a really kind of sensible advice to white here. I can understand how Levon felt during this very important game, that, after move 8, he's under attack, and okay, it looks very dangerous. He's out of his preparation. Yeah, not a nice feeling. I've experienced something like that from time to time in my professional chess career, and it's not easy to play. Yeah, when you're cursing your seconds, maybe yourself, that you have missed such an idea, and that you have to, instead of, when you're going to a game like this, you want to play with white, you want to press a bit, with a comfortable, safe position out of the opening, and suddenly, just after 8 moves, you have to calculate some lines in order not to get mated or not to get just simply under, decisive attack without counterplay. So, yeah, strange circumstances, I would say. So here, what else? Aranyan played c3, and I think, again, it's probably the best move. Actually, White has already, it's hard to believe, but he has already to solve the problem is how to stay in the game. Believe me or not, but this g5, g4 is a terrible threat. For instance, if knight c3, again, g5 works. Okay, what to do against g4? If knight takes c5, then g4. Because queen e5, obviously, White would just take on h5. But after g4, yes, now what to do after g4? You cannot take on g4. For instance, here, let's say knight g4, you just getting, mated in a very straightforward fashion. Knight g3, and next move, queen h1 mate. Very simple. So d4 is practically only move because I'm threatening queen h4, gh, just mate is coming, yeah. So d4, bishop d6. Again, you cannot really take the pawn on g4. So g3, White already starts to play only moves here in this position, strangely enough, yeah. And after g3, Black can simply take twice. h4, again, in order not to get mated quickly, because Black wants to take gh probably, but also knight takes g3 somewhere in some situation. So h4, and Black can simply go bishop d7 followed by long castle. Okay, White's king, at least here, well, is not getting mated really, but the king is really weak. Yeah, and the Black have actually, on top of everything, has a development advantage. So this position is in Black's favor, but again, not lost for White, but no fun to go for it with White. I don't know, maybe relatively best is to play d4 here. At least like this, White can manage to stop g5, but also after e d4, knight d4, now I can just play g6, for instance, bishop e3, bishop d7, followed by long castle. And, well, it's just better for Black here, yeah, because Black has a very powerful initiative. Simply a very good position in itself, yeah. Without even mentioning that there are a lot of potential threats which will come soon with sometimes f5, queen h4. So just even long castle, rook h8, Black has just simply having a better position. So also not something which, yeah, you would enjoy with White. So I guess with quite heavy heart, but Levon Aranyan played c3, g5 now. Again, well, what to do? Knight takes c5 was played. Well, another option is to try to play d4. Then e takes d4. But actually, what is quite interesting also that Black has even a very direct way of playing, like g4, hg, bishop takes g4, d takes c5, queen f6, followed by rook d8. Even this is actually quite dangerous for White. I think with best play it ends in a draw. But yeah, over the board, I would be even, well, pretty much worried about such play. But e takes d4 is good enough because cd4, bishop b6, as we already know. And again, same issue, g4 is a threat, so knight h2 has to be played. And simply knight f6. And again, Black just wants to also to play g4 and also just to develop his bishop and to make long castle. So let's say e5, knight d5, then Black simply plays bishop e6, long castle, and with the advantage, because maybe now the attack is not so powerful, even if at some point Black can really create threats also against the king, but now the d4 pawn is actually very weak. So also, yeah, not something you would be very happy with White. So knight takes c5, it's a principal move. g4, of course, that is the idea. Absolutely only move is d4, because as we already know, in case of knight takes g4, knight g3, and next queen h1 mate. So d4 is only move. bishop d6. Again, only move g3. Not a very good sign, yeah, if white starts to make only moves already as early as move 9 or move 10, he starts to have only moves. Yeah, that's a very strange situation in top level chess. So g3, only move g3. Yes, and now I played bishop takes e5, the most logical. Maybe actually even more precise was to play bishop e6. I mean, possible to find this move. It makes a lot of sense. It's just that when you see that after bishop takes e5, you have a very nice position. I mean, probably clearly just better. I mean, the question is only how much better. Then, yeah, it's logical to go for it and not to bother with other moves. But actually, bishop e6, just trying to play long castle, could have been even stronger. I mean, not that again that it's winning, no, but white is in trouble here. White is in trouble because he cannot still take hg, because I mean bishop takes e5. He has to take de, but that probably will lead to a quick disaster. Bishop takes g4, and black's attack, well, is very, very strong. But gh5 is bishop takes g3. This is just mate. Black is just mating white here. So bishop e6 was maybe even more annoying for white, but bishop takes e5 is good enough. Of course, it's still white's position is well, it's little fun. Yeah, de5, queen takes e5 was played. And here Levon Ranyan played queen d4. Not much choice. Otherwise, maybe only h4 is a possible move. But then, well, black can simply take the pawn, or first to play bishop e6 also. Because let's say if you start with bishop e6, anyways, white probably have to play king h2. Because after queen d4, knight takes g3, fg, queen g3, and threatening queen h3 check, g3 position is, well, quite critical for white. So king h2, and now maybe taking on e4, or the same story, quite similar, queen takes e4 check, king g1, bishop e6, and rook e1, queen d5, and probably white actually must simply exchange queens now, otherwise he will be under very powerful attack soon. cd5, and what to say, black is just a pawn up. Of course, still some technique is required, but white's position is very difficult. Yeah, so not really an option when you play a game. So he played queen d4. This is a correct move. And here, yes, I had a interesting choice. I mean, I could have, I was hesitating, but not for too long, because of course I understood that the simplest is to take exchange queens and g takes h3. Let's say king h2 has to be played sooner than later, and bishop e6 followed by long castle. Well, black is pawn up. I mean, of course, this double pawn on h file. It's not completely, healthy extra pawn, but it's still a pawn. Still a pawn. Not easy to take it in the near future, at least. And black is having an absolutely risk-free play. Black is definitely better. I mean, slightly better. I mean, white is going to suffer here and to try to make a draw. But of course, it's not easy to win this position. White will develop his pieces, and black will probably push f5 at some point. But of course, the opposite color bishops in endgame. So yeah, I mean, of course, normally I would be, well, more than happy to get such position out of the opening in this game. But here I felt like, first of all, I already getting into this attacking mood. There were already, as you have seen, some beautiful variations before, so I was already getting excited. And also I felt that in practical sense, I decided to keep queens, played queen e7. I had a feeling that it's even more difficult for white. It's very difficult to play with queens on the board, even though, of course, now white plays h4, so he doesn't let black take this pawn anymore. But c5, and well, this diagonal, the long diagonal a8 h1 will be a constant issue for white till the end of the game. So I'm in time to develop, and I would say that it was more intuitive decision. Of course, I haven't seen all the lines, which I will going to show you now, and also the line which happened in the game. But it's impossible. Yeah, you don't try to calculate all variations when you're making this decision. This decision is more intuitive. So to exchange queens and to go to a very nice, pleasant endgame and try to win it slowly, or to try to continue with the attack, maybe taking a bit of risk if something goes wrong. At least there is equal amount of pawns, and also my king is still in the center, but there is a potential of actually creating very strong attack and simply to mate white's king. So the second scenario exactly happened in the game. But I felt that this position is extremely dangerous for white. And actually here, strangely enough, white made a decisive mistake on move 16 already. A decisive mistake, not obvious at all, because of course queen d5 doesn't make sense. Attacking the knight, but the knight retreats to f6, and e4 pawn is under attack. So this is not an option. But probably the only way for white to get a more or less decent position was to play queen d3. Then bishop d7. That is my plan. Of course, black wants to play long castle, bishop c6, and white's only way to play is c4. That is very important. Long castle, knight c3, and then to try, once black is playing bishop c6, to get the knight to d5, at least to block the diagonal with a knight. So let's say rook e8 first, or bishop c6. It's anyways we'll get to this position. Rook e1, bishop c6, knight d5. And I remember during the game I actually wanted, when Levon took quite some time thinking about in this position, trying to understand where to retreat with his queen. And I remember I went here in my calculation. I thought this was the best way for white to play. Frankly, I didn't even see this idea which Levon have found and played. So I thought that was the most logical way of playing, and actually it's true. Computer says that this was the only way for white to play. And here I was not sure. Bishop takes d5. Actually, of course, again, it's takes knight f6. That is very dangerous. So white has to be really sure that he will manage to survive here, because if black just takes on e4 and plays f5, okay, it's completely lost for white. But after bishop g5, knight takes e4. This trick is working, because in case of bishop takes e7, knight takes f2 check, king g1, knight takes d3, and let's say rook e3, any move actually, but rook d7, and black is just 2 pawns up, completely winning endgame. But king g1, and here, as strange as it might seem, it's not so easy to prove a big advantage for black. Of course, he's still extremely comfortable. Let's say f6, and now not bishop takes f6. Actually, this is probably losing. Queen takes f6, rook takes e4, queen f5. Let's say rook e1, first h5, and then taking on e4, taking on d5. Well, white has some chances to save this rook endgame. Probably it will get to rook endgame, pawn down, but most likely he will not. Most likely it will be winning for black. But after bishop f4, this seems to be miraculously to work just by tempo, because f5, and now, okay, if black just consolidates, well, he's just winning completely, pawn up and better position. But the problem is queen a3. Queen a3 is a very, very annoying move, actually. First queen a3 before playing bishop g5, a6, bishop g5, and queen f7, bishop takes d8, rook takes d8. Actually, the knight on e4 is so powerful that even this position, even exchange down, of course, black is going to take on d5 next. Even this position is only black who can play for a win, but I don't think he will manage. Most probably white must be able to hold this position. So maybe bishop takes d5 doesn't seem to win. Of course, for white, you had to be sure about it, because everything worked just on a millimeter if some tactics, if for instance there is no king g1 move, or here f6 bishop f4, okay, if black just manages to find the way how to protect all his pieces, then it will be just lost. So not an easy decision for white, but I guess Levon didn't like it at all. But also, actually, queen e5, maybe this is a simpler way of playing. Queen e5, just threatening f5 pretty often in these positions. But here, king g2, as bad as it looks for white, I mean, this knight on d5 doesn't look very solid, somehow. But there is no way really to get by force a very significant advantage for black. So, for instance, after f5, again, white is just by tempi in time to play bishop g5, f3, queen e2, and then g4 pawn is hanging. That is very important. And rook d7, queen g4, it seems that here white is pretty close to save the game. Maybe black can play some moves, prophylactics, I mean, like rook d7, preparing f5 or b6. Of course, it's still a very nice position for black. Obviously, black is at least slightly better, but the game is still going on. So queen d3 was best move, the only move actually, but Levon played queen c4. Queen c4, which came as a surprise to me. Because, then I understood that actually it makes quite some sense, because he wants to play bishop e3, attack the pawn, then knight d2, at least to develop his pieces. And the main idea is that in case of bishop e6, and here I already saw this very important move, which was missed by white. So bishop e6, queen b5 check. That is the idea, to force c6, because, okay, queen a4 check will just give a tempi to black, bishop d7, and then long castle. So the idea was to fight against black's long castle. So check. Now, of course, if bishop d7, the pawn on b7 is hanging, obviously. So c6 has to be played, and queen a4. Well, of course, other moves, I mean, white can play queen d3, for instance, but then not quite clear why he lost tempis, like rook d8. It's pretty bad position for white. Queen e3, bishop c4. So each move, black attacks some piece. Rook g1, it's only move according to engine, because if rook e1, rook d3, queen h6, queen e5, and then followed by sacrifice on g3, it's basically just practically mate. So rook g1 is only move, and now rook g6, for instance, looks very nice just to stop queen h6, also preparing rook e6. Let's say queen e1, bishop d3, e4 pawn will fall. Black has actually huge development advantage, and shouldn't be too difficult to win this position with black. So that's why queen a4 was played. That was the idea. That was the idea of Levon, is to try to fight against, because in case of long castle, then a7 pawn is hanging, and also if b5, black plays b5, then already probably queen a6. So my king is stuck a bit in the center, and that makes black's attack develop much slower. It's not so easy to attack with the king at the center. So queen a4, and here I would like, if some of you haven't seen this game yet, I would like you to think and to find the best way to proceed with black, to proceed with his initiative, with his attack, something which Levon Aranyan have missed in his calculations when playing queen c4. So this move is f5. That is actually it's a winning move. I remember when I saw after queen c4, I started to think, and I saw this f5, and I was surprised because it doesn't look so winning for black, the position. I mean, after all, black still has king at the center, equal pawns. White just needs to develop a couple of pieces. True, he has a vulnerable king, but I was quite surprised that I cannot see a slightest, idea how white is going to, to keep the game going. And actually, after f5, modern engines giving +4 for black. So it's just completely winning. But of course, the idea, I mean, why white missed it, of course, normally e takes f5 should be played. Yeah, that is the idea that black seems to open up his e line, his king, but actually just there is tactics, knight takes g3 check. That is what was missed by Aranyan. Fg, bishop d5 check. Okay, or king g1 only move, queen e2. And it's a strange situation that, with this very vulnerable king on e8, but white is just getting mated because queen g2 is threatening. So rook f2, queen e1 check, and queen takes g3 mate. So ef tactically doesn't work, and otherwise black just continues with f4 and let's say king h2 f4 and just long castle and simply starts to mate black, and actually the mate is coming like almost automatically. That's why bishop g5, of course, also the very important move to see in advance for black, but then of course rook takes g5, no doubt, hg f4. And yes, here I remember Levon was taking lots of time here, just trying to find at least some defensive idea. And while he was thinking, I was also walking and trying to see. There must be at least some way for white to try to keep on going, to keep on fighting. But I couldn't see, actually. I just couldn't see, and it's true. There is absolutely no way white can build up any reasonable defense in this position, just that he's getting mated simply in all lines. So it's hard to know what is the best practical chance here, because position is lost. But queen d1 was played, trying to get the queen finally at least to defend your weak king. Rook d8, but queen c1. Now, the rest of the game, it's still quite instructive. First of all, it's quite beautiful. There were a couple of quite beautiful variations, and it's visually instructive. I mean, it's rarely seen on the top level when all the pieces are just in the attack and simply, mating white with a very, very good margin. I mean, again, you can see it in the game of lower players, lower rated players, but usually not in the very top level chess. But frankly, it was not actually, there was nothing which Levon could do. I mean, not that he played badly. I mean, basically, he made only one real mistake, is queen c4, and then missed f5, and nothing else to do. So it was a really, really bad day, bad luck for Levon this day, but still the lines are quite beautiful. Here, I remember I had quite a lot of time still, and maybe less than an hour, but definitely more than half an hour, still more than enough to mate white. But my concern was, and this is also sometimes just a small piece of advice for you, for your own tournament chess, practical chess games, that sometimes, when there are too many ways to win, it actually creates a bit of a problem, because you just start to hesitate which one is safer, which one is the most convenient way to win. And that was the only danger here for black, because basically everything works here. For example, queen takes g5, of course, is also very strong. King g1. That's why white had his queen on c1, at least to pin the queen. But now queen h6. Simply the attack is unstoppable. Knight a3, just to develop somehow. I have a strong feeling if I just say pass and give white a move, it would still be winning. But of course, rook d3. As you already know, after the end of this course, that you just get more pieces in the attack. Very simple chess, when you just get the rook close to the king, to the opponent's king. And knight c2, now many ways to win. Knight takes g3 is one of those. Fg, rook takes g3 check. King f2, queen h2 check, king e1. And again, probably more than one move, but rook f3 is the most accurate. Well, it's pretty clear. Actually, black is not really rook up, because rook on a1 is not playing, and it's clear it's going to be mate. But fg, I played fg, also very good. Why not? Knight a3, not much to do. Rook d3, so entering with a rook. Rook d1. yeah, anyway, there is no way white can put up any resistance. But here, yeah, I remember I was hesitating. I saw the most. I can give you this position. I mean, just to find the most efficient way for black to win. Actually, the quickest. Let's put it this way: the quickest, and it's true. This is the quickest way to win, and also the most beautiful. But frankly, my only consideration was because to calculate the variations after this move wasn't too difficult. That I did in a couple of minutes. It's not, yeah, not too complicated for top grandmaster, yeah. But I just was rechecking and checking and rechecking just in case, because somehow, of course, I saw that I can simply take on d1 and gf2, and black is just winning easily, yeah, here, completely winning. But I saw the lines were beautiful. Just this idea was in my mind that what if I miscalculate something, and then it would be so ridiculous, to not to win this game, because I know that if I take on d1 and gf2, I mean, I'm going to win for sure. But okay, I saw, but I should be, I have a chance to win more beautiful and completely by force, yeah, just immediately. So that's why it took me maybe 15 minutes, my next move, even though, yeah, I think I had everything already calculated, after a couple of minutes. But anyway, it's quite nice, especially because, yeah, there was certain artistic kind of feeling in me, which made me, play this unnecessary beautiful move. Even though, again, it's the best move, it's the fastest way for black to win, to mate white. After this move, actually, I think computer already shows like mate in 10 or mate in 12. It's forcing mate. So the move is bishop d5. And also it's quite nice, especially because, not a difficult move. I mean, especially if it's one of few moves which are winning, because of course, if e takes d5, queen e4 check, king g1, gf2 check, and then mate in many different ways. Well, obvious, white is just having the only naked king, there, and black has all his pieces in attack. This is clear mate. Then f3. First taken on d3, it doesn't change anything. Queen takes e4 check f3, but Levon played f3 first, and g takes f3. Well, now white has not a very big choice, but of course the variation which inspired me, and that's why when I saw it, I wanted, I wanted to play bishop d5, is rook takes d3, then queen takes e4, and white cannot do anything about f2 mate, because rook e3, f2 check. This is quite nice, because rook takes e4, bishop takes e4 mate. I mean, this is really quite beautiful. This is really quite beautiful. Rare case when actually here black is queen and exchange down, but it's mate simply. So of course I couldn't resist to go for this line. And also after e takes d5, another move, queen e2. Okay, so this is very simple. I'm threatening mate. Now if queen c2, it leads to the same situation. Also kind of original mates like g2 check, king h2. If king g1, the same like in the game. So g1, queen check, king take g1, f2 check. Now finally, if king goes to the second round, then I queen with check. And if king h1, rook h3 check, king g2, and now f1 queen mate. I have never seen such mate in my life when two queens are mating. But that is mate. And also in the games, and another way to defend against queen h2 is rook e1 to play. And I played g2 check, and here white resigned, because after, there are two ways to proceed, whether king g1 first, f2 check, king h2, g1 queen check. Black is queening one after another. Yeah, rook take g1, f1 queen check. Of course, fg also wins, but f1 queen is quicker. King h1, and now I personally prefer the few ways to give mate. I like this mate. This is kind of original mate, queen eg2 mate, or let's say if king h2, g1 queen. I mean, forcing the king to g1, f2 check, and again, king h3, rook h3 check, and f1 queen mate. This we already seen this concept. So after g2 check, Levon resigned. I mean, again, yeah, what can I say about this game? Very bad luck for Levon. I mean, it's for you to judge if there was anything special which I did in this game. I don't think so. But of course, I mean, it stays in your mind. Yeah, it's quite impressive to see such game on the high level when Blake is actually just attacking from move 8 until the end of the game, just moving all pieces in and just crushing mating with two queens, for example, like in some of these lines. So quite a fascinating game. Of course, very nice memories for me. But yeah, so really, I mean, I cannot even explain how come it's possible that in a solid opening from move 8 you can start a direct attack with black, and actually white was already in trouble on move 8. But it can happen. And just a small remark, small some summary of this, that in general, especially there are a lot of Italian Ruy Lopez kind of variations where you have castled and your opponent haven't yet castled. Then it's always be very careful playing h3. Or if your castle with black and white haven't castled yet in this Ruy Lopez Italian structure, be very careful playing h6 or h3, because then this plan of g5, g4, very often it becomes really dangerous. So that is for you to learn from this lesson and to enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this kind of crazy, strange, but I still believe quite beautiful game.